What's going on, guys? No guys here, welcome back to another video. This is a Serie starter squad people have been asking me to make, so I thought I'll do it again, make another video for you. As I said, EX is only 3 days away, so don't forget as well, one thing I just wanted to say very quickly, when you're making a team, generally speaking, try to also take into account who you pack in the first couple of days. So let's say, for example, you get a starter packs. If you happen to pack a lot of French players, it might be wise making a French starter squad. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm saying when the time actually comes, do consider all the players that are available in your team. That's just one thing I would say. So be open to make changes. But now we'll go with Serie. I think Serie is going to be a good league this year because I think Bundesliga, because obviously the hyperlinks like Akanji, Zakaria and Babu are obviously causing a lot of stir. People want to go towards the Bundesliga now. So I think Serie is actually a good squad. The problem is there's not that many good players. That is probably the only downsides in Serie. But we're going to start with the goalkeeper. In terms of cheap goalkeepers, there isn't that many. I would go with this guy. I don't know how exactly you say his name. So I think it's Strakosha. I hope that's correct. But yeah, I'm sure my Albanian friends can correct me on that. But anyway, I'm thinking of going with him. I looked at his stats. The key thing with his stats is height is still very much important. And the fact that he's 6'4", I think if you put a glove on him, it's going to be one of those cards that are still going to be pretty much OP. So, and I can't imagine he will cost that much money when the game comes out. So I'll definitely get someone like him. The problem mainly comes out is more of the outfield players in Serie A that lack, especially the lower end players. Now for centre backs, you're kind of a bit sport for choice. There are a lot of centre backs. Obviously, players like De Ligt, in my opinion, are too slow. Even though he's got good stats, he's just too slow. Unless you put a shadow on him, but even then, he's going to cost too much money. So I mean, obviously, people want to go players like Manolas. Manolas is a very good card, but he's possibly the best centre back in Serie A. He won't be less than 20k, even though he's low rated. He left Murillo, Bastos, Caceres, and Juan Jesus. The problem is with Bastos is he's got a low pace. I would personally go with Murillo. If those of you remember him from last year, he was in La Liga as well. I think he's now plays in Serie A. He's actually a really good card. I still think pace should be at the forefront for centre backs, especially now it's hard. Especially now that strikers can almost get away from defenders too easily. It's like there's more emphasis put on pace. So anyway, for the other centre back, you kind of have a choice between Caceres and Juan Jesus. I would personally go with Juan Jesus, but it's honestly up to personal opinion, just because he's got a bit better physical. But again, it's personal preference. But that's the back two I'd probably go with Serie. I can't imagine these will cost. I mean, the good thing with Serie is almost not really the most desirable of leagues, so it's a bit on the cheap side. So I suppose you can almost get away with getting most of these cards pretty cheap. Now, right backs, again, there isn't that many options. I still think, contrary to what people are going to say to you, pace is the most important thing for a right back. I would say the whole back line, especially this year, basically everyone's going to be using pace abuse left wing and right wing. So you want to use someone that can counter that. You kind of start to go with this guy. Now, what you can do is you can play, for example, I was kind of looking into this. You can play, for example, someone like Hernandez. So I was thinking maybe Dalbert. So Dalbert's got 91 pace. If you put a sentinel on him and playing him off chem on 7 chemistry on the right hand side is a possible viable option. So you can, for example, even put Hernandez because he's got better stats, and then get Dalbert and play Hernandez off chem. He'll get 7 chemistry. You can do that. I would just say be careful. 85 pace, I would strongly suggest, especially if you're up against pay-to-win squads. People are going to have players with 90 plus pace on the wing. You know how easy it is to get it behind now. So I would strongly probably go with the fast right, but I would say probably put the pace above the defensive stats. Now, CDMs, there isn't that much choice, to be completely honest. But to be honest, Serie is a league that I normally go with. Unfortunately, on the lower end, there's not that many players. I know people want players like Nainggolan, but I'm pretty sure he won't be less than 100k when the game comes out. He's still going to be probably one of the best centre mids in the game. So don't think he's going to cost a very cheap price. One player that's really good is Bonaventura. He's a very good player, good overall player. If you want an attacking player, I'll probably go with one attacking, one defensive player. So the defensive players, there's not that much for an option. There is, for example, this guy, but he hasn't got the best of stats. So as again, it kind of comes to a point where, you know, do you get the balance right or wrong? This guy's pretty good. This Nandez guy, he's actually got pretty good in-game stats. He's on a bit on the short side. It kind of reminds me a bit of Lucas Torreira, but with a shadow. He's actually got a really good card. What obviously stands out here is the stamina. 92 stamina is a very good card. But the players I'll probably go with one defensive, one attacking. I think that's probably your best bet. The first centre mid is Zielinski. I use this guy a lot. He's actually a really good card, mainly because his stats are just really good, and also he's a 5-star weak foot, so he's a very good player for playing a final ball. 5-star, 4-star. He's medium, but you know, if you put a shadow on him, he can still play that defensive role if you really want to do. His stamina is a little bit of an issue that kind of puts me away from him, but if you want a creator, or even you can even play him at cam, this guy will actually be a decent cam because of his short passing. So you can decide. I mean, personally, I would like to have one attacking player alongside one defensive player. So you can do that however you want. I would probably go with him. And then I'll probably put Bonaventura on the other side. Bonaventura, am I saying his name correctly? Bonaventura, sorry, I'm mistaken. Bonaventura. Yeah, another good player. He's been a very good player for the past... Since FIFA 13, it was always a very good card. A good, very well-rounded card. Again, a shadow on this guy will probably sort him out. He can play the defensive role. He is medium-high, but I think on stay back, he'll probably get the job done. Another good card. As I said, you can play Zielinski in cam if you want to. I mean, don't forget, the good thing about this formation, you can play a 4-1-2-1-2. I'm trying to pick these CDM centre mid players, so you can play in a 4-1-2-1-2. You can play in a 4-2-3-1. That's the whole idea. In terms of we're going to fixate mainly to the wingers right now. Again, with the wingers, pace is probably the most important thing. There is a lot of good wingers now. Callion is a good player. The only thing that lets him down is mainly his weak foot. Mkhitaryan is actually surprisingly a good cam. He's got a 5-star weak foot, so you can actually play him off chemistry. So what you can do is you can play someone like Mkhitaryan there, but Lozano will probably be the main guy that I'll go for. But Mkhitaryan, he can play on. So if you move him to a right mid, and you give him loyalty, and he'll get the Serie manager, you can get 7 chemistry. Now on 7 chemistry is actually a really good cam, so you can play him there. He does lack some of the stats. He's been nerfed a bit now, but because he's still got a 5-star weak foot, he's actually still very much useful. As you can see, 5-star, 4-star. He can still dribble. He's got decent shot power. Just like last year, Deadeye on this guy will be really good. You can boost his stats up quite a bit. But Lozano, obviously, we know how good Lozano is. He's a very good dribbler, 4-star, low-high, good stamina for winger anyway. He's not going to be running down too much. Very good dribbling, good balance, decent balance, sorry, good agility. It's going to be very good on the ball. I will go with this guy. I would definitely say something like a sniper or a hunter. Probably what I'd recommend with this card, just to get his finishing up a bit more and maybe to improve his composure a bit. It's probably why I'd go with a sniper. For the left wing position, again, this is where there's an issue. There isn't that much. Now, there is one player I can vouch for. Is Douglas Costa. He is a bit too much. Gervinho's weak foot lets him down, and he's a bit of an issue. One card that I used last year was Verdi, and I used him when a game came out mainly because he had a 5-star weak foot. And I don't know if you remember, he had a 1-to-watch card last year, but they've actually buffed his stats. If you look at his stats, he's got 5-star weak foot, 4-star skill moves, very good agility and balance, very good stats. His finishing does let him down a bit, and he's got decent pace and acceleration, not the fastest, but to be completely honest, again, you put a dead on him, he can even play in cam for you. So this is another card that can play in that cam role. So if you're finding, for example, you're lacking in the cam position, feel free to play this guy in a cam. You know, to be honest, I'll probably make the change. I'll probably put Verdi. In cam. Actually, looking back, I'll probably put Verdi in cam just because he's got the good stats. You put a dead on, even on 7 chemistry, he's got really good stats, and he's got a 5-star weak foot. And I'd probably go for someone else off camera. I mean, Jovino is probably the only other option. The rest of players like Douglas Costa will be too expensive. Now, strikers, you do have a lot of choice. Now, this just depends mainly on how you play. If you're the kind of person that goes for headers, even though it's been... Just remember, heading has been nerfed this year. But there are certain players. You might want to go for Zapata or Lukaku. You might want a physical presence. Now, eventually, long term, you want to get someone like Mertens. I think Mertens is probably one of the best strikers in the game, especially early on. He's very good, very agile. But when the game comes out... So there's two players. Immobile is actually a good player, but he's going to be too expensive. So on the cheaper option, you do have Belotti. Belotti's a good card. He's got a 5-star weak foot, so he's a player to consider. Another player to consider is Muriel. So you can get someone like Muriel. His finishing is still decent. He hasn't got the worst stats, to be honest. I know it looks bad on face value, but he's actually got a decent card. So I would say Belotti is another very good card as well. And Rebic? I think that's how you say his name. They're all actually very good cards. We're just going to quickly compare them. And this is why I think it just kind of depends on what your personal preference is. So if you, for example, want a card where who's the other one? Belotti. So I think they all have a 4-star weak foot apart from... So they all have a 4-star weak foot. Belotti lacks the 3-star skills, but then he does have the 5-star weak foot. Now the problem is they're not the best of dribblers. Muriel, if you want to dribble, then Muriel is the guy to go to. I would say he's the main kind of guy. If you want the guy that's good at heading, I'll go with Belotti for his jumping. But to be honest, Rebic is probably one of the strikers where he's got a good balance between pace and he's actually got good finishing. To be completely honest, you can argue that Belotti's finishing is a bit better, but the problem is it comes to a situation where do you compromise a bit of finishing for better pace? You see, with Rebic, you might not even need a hunter card on him. You could probably make do with, for example, a hawk, and a hawk brings him up and gets his finishing even higher. So this is completely depends upon you. Personally, I would go to Muriel just because I prefer my striker to be a bit of a dribbler. So that's what I would go for. But this would actually be a very good starting team. As I said, don't forget, always feel free to use players out of position. If, for example, let's say you want Zielinski, you want an even more defensive player, you can always use a centre back. Worst case scenario in that position. As I said as well, you can also have a placeholder player. So you can have, I know because most of you probably going to do a single rotational squad, right? You can have players so you can get someone cheaper, like Lucas Leiva, but his pace is it's not worth it. Parolo is a very good card as well. And Rabiot will be too expensive when the game comes out. Emre Can's actually a decent card. Actually, to be completely honest, Emre Can. But this Kessie guy, I saw him early on today. He's actually got really good stats. The only downside is for him, in my opinion, is that he lacks the passing. 79 short passing. But I mean, I suppose you can get the jump as a defensive player because he's high. I'd probably put a shadow on him. You get his pace up, he actually ends up having very good defensive stats, and even his physicality, he's got 96 stamina as well. So that's another card I would go for. So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on a starter team for Serie A. This is probably the team I would go for, and I'll definitely put Verdi in that position. And I'll probably use some of the players to rotate. Maybe get someone like Belotti to rotate, Zielinski, Parolo, a few players like that. But that would be the Serie A team that I'll make. If you have any questions or any other recommendations for any of the leagues you want me to do, please let me know in advance, and I'll just obviously check some of the players out. And yeah, but anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy, boys.